Good morning or good afternoon, depending on where you're at in the time zones. Welcome to the DecisionWise monthly webinar. This is on AI, improving the employee experience. My name is Matt Wride, and my colleague with me is Christian Nielson. He is our Chief Revenue Officer, but in a prior life was a consultant with PricewaterhouseCoopers. I should just say PwC. I date myself when I use the full name of the firm. But anyway, we're just welcoming you in. We're going to give ourselves just a couple of minutes to let others join, but we're excited for the conversation today. We'll be using the chat, more the chat rather than the Q&A function. And so when there's a question or something, just hop into the chat if you would and tell us your thoughts if you have any, which I hope you do. I hope we have some questions and everything. So we're located just south of Salt Lake City. It's a beautiful spring day here, but we still have snow-capped peaks, and it's a nice. We're starting to see the signs of spring, for sure. Okay, we're just a few minutes or a few seconds from starting. All right, top of the hour. Welcome to our webinar series. We try to do a webinar a month, so we hope that some of you are able to sort of keep on that schedule with us. Today is about how we leverage AI to improve the employee experience. And my goal is that you come away with a sense of how do you move this technology forward, but to do so responsibly, and also to know where the investments make sense. There's going to be a lot of talk about AI, and everybody's going to put that as a slogan or a tagline about their product. And in some ways, I think it's really useful, and in other areas it don't. And I hope in our discussion today that you come away with a sense of that. That's kind of our goal. So anyway, leveraging AI to improve the employee experience. This qualifies for SHRM and HRCI credit, and those instructions come out later from Kaylee on how to qualify to get your credit. But this is available for continuing ed. So let me cover our agenda. Some of you may have seen this image. This image was generated by AI. It caused quite a bit of stir in the press when it came out, and I kind of wanted it to be real. Honestly, it's a fun look, but this is the world we live in, and there we have Pope Francis with his sweet puffer. We're gonna start with just sort of introducing. We've kind of covered our introductions, our webinar logistics, but we're going to get into the basics of AI. Try to help you understand. I think when we have a baseline conceptualization of what AI is, I think we can know how to deploy it and how to make smart decisions around it. But we need to have at least a bit of a working knowledge of what's happening behind the scenes. We're going to talk about the role then of AI in building and supporting the employee experience. Some legal and ethical considerations. HR has a duty to protect the organization. It has an element of compliance. It's both strategic as well as compliance. And so I think these are important topics for us to talk about. And then finally, just some best practices and maybe a hint at where we think things are headed in the future in our space, in the human resources space. So that's what we're going to be covering. Wanted to throw out an offer. We have, for anyone who wants to get a copy of our book, The Employee Experience, you just have to email Jamie Duncan, jduncan@decisionwise.com, indicate you're on the webinar, and we will ship you out that book. We have had a lot of success with it. It's been out for 6 years now, but the principles are timeless, and we hope that you enjoy it and can and think about the principles of the employee experience, and then how AI can help you there. Okay, so let's take a look at this statement. This came from PBS NewsHour, but it says that essentially the World Economic Forum has concluded that the biggest risk to the global economy is AI-powered misinformation or disinformation. And that's now ahead of climate change. Okay, so the World Economic Forum says this is a big issue. Now, we've all seen the sci-fi flicks. We're sure that some sentient, all-powerful computer is going to take over the world. But notice here that they really talked about misinformation and disinformation. So misinformation, it just gets it wrong, and disinformation is where there's an intent to deceive. And AI is a powerful tool for disinformation. Misinformation just happens. We call that hallucinating, right? When the generative AI program doesn't know what to do, it just sort of fills in stuff, makes stuff up. But disinformation in the hands of bad actors is a problem, and in a way, that picture that we showed of Pope Francis, that's disinformation. It's funny, but I worry, we all should be worried about how this will impact our economy. The AI represents the fourth industrial revolution. It's here to stay, and we need to get on board with it. In fact, this quote, I think, best captures how we should be looking at AI. Richard Baldwin said this: AI won't take your job. It's somebody using AI that will take your job. And I really like that sentiment.
I love that. And also just kind of going back to the previous point, there's this huge risk of misinformation. I think as we're thinking about the employee experience, there's going to be just a quick check. Can give us a thumbs up if you can see our screen. It looks like at least one person couldn't. I'm able to see it okay, but if you can see those slides. Okay, some thumbs up. That question though, or this misinformation can impact, if we're thinking about AI and the employee experience. I mean, we want to talk about some of the good things it brings, but there are a lot of those risks. And that misinformation just at a macro level coming outside our organization, if we think about the well-being of our employees, things are going to get more and more confusing, and there's going to be some interesting things happening outside of our organization. They're going to be impacting the experience of our employees, and they're going to be bringing that stress inside, as well as these tools become more and more available to the layman. Bad actors, even within your organization, may be able to create kind of localized disinformation. So there's some interesting risks to be thinking through, but also there's a lot of really great upside. I think Matt and I have both gone on the journey of, is this the end of the world? Is this the best thing that's ever happened to us? And it's easy to argue both sides of that. And so we'll hopefully be touching on some of the great things and also some of the potential risks. And Matt, I think your background as an attorney is really interesting, a really great lens to bring to this conversation for HR practitioners.
Yeah. I want to say I'm an AI optimist. I am not a pessimist. I think we're going to figure this out. I think we're going to see a lot of great change. But I think we have to be very clear about defining responsible use of AI, and we have to understand how we're going to police and enforce the use of AI. But I am not opposed to AI. This is not going to be a webinar where we're saying, oh, the sky is falling. No, just the contrary. There's so much to look forward to, and I think we can be optimistic, but we need to be careful, and we need to take this serious. And organizations are, until regulators come in, organizations have to police themselves. And the question is, will they do that? And as HR professionals, you can advocate for proper governance. You can advocate for responsible use of AI. So that's I said, in essence, my biggest challenge to all of you is become responsible advocates for AI in your organization. So, hey, if you can open up the chat, we want to get a feel for our audience. So if you think you're really proficient with AI, you really understand it, type in a 5. And if you're a complete newbie, type in a 1. I just want to get a feel for where people see themselves. Okay, we've got a 5. We've got some 1s, some 2s, 3s. All right, our bell curve is starting to round out nicely, as we would hope, statistically speaking. Okay. Well, I hope that this presentation is geared towards someone with about a level 2 or even a level 1. You should be able, this should get you up. It's not going to wow anyone who's totally proficient in it, I think, except for the areas where we talk about policy. And I think those areas are going to be applicable to someone who's operating at a level 5. All right. Let's talk about some basics. So we're going to cover classical AI, the difference between classical AI and generative AI. Generative AI is the buzz, and that's what when we talk about AI, most people are sort of defaulting to Gen AI, but we can't forget that there's a lot of classical AI out there. You're all using it right now, and there's still a place for it. And so by understanding the distinction between classical AI and generative AI, you'll make better decisions, because there are absolutely going to be case studies where classical AI is a better tool than using generative AI. And then we want to cover what are known as large language models. These are the training data, the data sets that are used to create these algorithms and these probability algorithms that help us, that basically make Gen AI work. We use models with classical AI, and I'll give you an example of how that works. But the primary use of LLMs is inside the Gen AI framework. And we're going to talk about open models, closed models, and specialty models. And what are the pros and cons of each? Let's just talk briefly about open models. Those are things like Bard. I think it's been renamed Gemini. It's ChatGPT in the open version. The challenge is, we're going to talk about a Samsung case later, where if you put it in there, it belongs to the world. So we really need to be careful about our use of open models. And you need to, as HR professionals, hopefully you've been working to get your generative AI use policies out there. And later, we're going to tell you some cases as to why that matters, where inadvertently you can have data breaches happening because people are uploading information into these open models. Closed models is where you buy it. You buy a specific model. In the legal field, that's case text. That's an open AI, or that's a Gen AI model, and it's closed, it's safe, it's yours, and you know that there's some security and some protocols about how information and privacy is managed. And so that's what a closed model. And then specialty models is where our LLMs are basically the last 60 years of anything that we can digitize that's been open for the last 60 years is what's been used to train these big open models. And so it's kind of like that LLM went to college, has a broad perspective on the world. And now we need models that go to medical school. We need models that go to law school. We need models that understand HR policy. Because when we use specialized models, then we're building off the great algorithms that are built using the large open LLMs, but we're now making it smart. So we're sending it to, like I said, to medical school. That's the metaphor I want to use. Okay, so under the foundation of AI is this notion of an algorithm. Okay, and I chose this picture because this reminds me of growing up in the 70s and the weird stuff my mom would make us. But a recipe is an algorithm. It's just a set of instructions. You have an input, some ingredients, you follow a set of instructions, and you get an output. In this case, you get something called a quick tomato mold. Sounds delicious, right? But that's what an algorithm is. Okay, so and classical AI and generative AI are built on algorithms. It's just that in generative AI, those algorithms are more adaptable. They're able to sort of do more based on probabilities. but nonetheless, there are a set of instructions. Can an AI think? Can it feel? No, it can only execute a set of instructions. It's not sentient. Now, the analogy is if you show a primate um, a, a mirror and they start seeing themselves in that image, at first they're going to interact with that as if they think that's another primate. And that's kind of what we're all doing. We're kind of like, oh my gosh, this is so lifelike, it's so real, it must be thinking. It's not. It's mimicking back 60 years of trillions and trillions of expressions of human thought, ideas, expressions that have been loaded and run through these algorithms, and it's just mimicking back. And so it feels like it's alive, but it's not. It's more akin to that primate looking at itself in a mirror, and it's just so realistic that we're like, wow, it's now sentient.
Yeah,
Go
I was
ahead.
I was going to say, at least if you're going to make a tomato mold, you might as well do it quick. I'm going to skip lunch after the
Those
recipes
were
there, but
delicious. Some of
uh,
you probably had that stuff around your
well,
house.
I think I'm glad we're talking about a few different flavors of how the AI term is used, because, you think through it, Matt and I frequently go to the HR Tech conference each year. And you walk around and every booth they'll say AI this and AI that, and they have for years, long before LLMs became very popular. And so it's kind of like going through the grocery store and seeing organic stamped on everything. You don't really know what that means, and it's kind of a buzzword that people stretch to sell products here and there. And so it's nice to get some kind of framework to really think through, okay, what's happening behind the scenes, and does it meet our needs? Does it put us at risk? Those type of questions.
Right. So classical AI, which is the AI that people have been putting when we have been going to HR Tech, this is the most common AI that people have been talking about, and it certainly is a type of artificial intelligence. It's automating instructions. It's using really interesting data sets to help personalize things, make the experience better. So this is, to me, the best illustration of a classical AI, and that is Netflix's ability to serve you up recommendations from a huge library. And how does it do it? Well, it does it by taking all of these inputs and then having algorithms and weighting all of these data inputs, weighting their various factors, and then it can serve up things. So ratings and searches and program pause time and then rewatches, all of those things are brought in. These are the signals, the data signals that are brought in. Then there's algorithms, a set of instructions, what to do with those. And the output is recommended titles for you to watch. And some of it's as basic as the top 10 things on Netflix today. I mean, I think a lot of us probably use that. And it's like, oh, what's everybody watching today? That's a form of AI, right? I am able to source collective knowledge of what everybody's watching, and I'm able to get a sense of, hey, that's probably pretty good because if a lot of people like it. But then if I have unique tastes, I'm into, I like Jane Austen movies, I'm going to start seeing similarly framed cinema come my way because of the algorithm. So this is classical AI. Okay. So as we think about it, the downside with classical AI is noise within signals. Okay, so over on the side, I've got three signals. Okay, and in those shades of green, and behind it, there's these gray boxes. Every signal has noise that comes with it. Essentially, tag-along signals or parasitic signals, and ideally, we love to clean our data such that we strip out the noise and keep just the signals we want. Okay. And then we send those signals to the analysis engine, the set of algorithms, and we get an output. The problem for us, especially in HR, is that these gray boxes, these parasites that kind of tag along with the signal we are looking for, they can contain wrong information, biases, or assumptions. So, for example, when everybody was before Netflix cracked down on password sharing, if I gave my password to, say, my college son, all of the stuff that he was watching and uploading was essentially corrupting the classical AI engine for me. My recommendations were would be corrupted. We were talking about this very thing this morning, Christian, because you were talking about if you watch a movie, you know that might show up if the kids are logged into your account, right?
Yeah.
And you're like, and so you're like, I'm gonna only watch Bluey and kids shows because that's what I want popping up.
It's what I watch anyway. But yes,
Yeah,
that's right.
So, and years ago, some folks at some engineers at Amazon set out to build like the perfect hiring tool, and they were men. And so what they did is they built the perfect tool, and guess what? The perfect tool was disproportionately selecting men. And why is it? Because all the signals that it came with their bias. Right? So maybe a preference for being on site or a preference for whatever that are these little gray boxes that tag along with these signals. And so of course it wasn't the perfect hiring because it hadn't eliminated the bias and the noise that were coming from the various assumptions and inputs that they were using to process their hiring guide. Another great example is in Boston, they created an app where you could report where potholes were. Okay. You could report, hey, there's a pothole here, and we're going to, in the springtime, we get potholes in these cities, and we're going to come out and we're going to fix them. And after they examined what was happening, they found out that they were only fixing potholes in rich white communities. And in the chat, I'm curious, why do you think that is? Why was this app? It was open to anybody. It covered the whole city. There was no design in the algorithm there was nothing specific in the algorithm that said only go to white rich communities. Why is it? Okay, Julia got it. Only rich white communities had smartphones, or they had received the mailings and information from Boston, the city of Boston. They're also maybe have more free time to report it. You guys are Charlie said because it was crappy AI, possibly. But in other words, this is an example where you were bringing in noise into the system, okay? Largely because at the time, people with smartphones that were using the app disproportionately were white affluent communities. Okay, so I hope that gives you an example of how inside classical AI, and even inside generative AI, we have to always be vigilant that our data is not leading to bias. In particular for HR professionals, that's in the hiring realm and in the decision-making process about who's promoted and their salaries and raises and compensation packages. So one thing I need you to all start to remember is, hey, I've got to make sure that I'm testing for bias, that I'm understanding, that I'm careful and thinking about the data sets that we use to train any AI tools that we're buying or implementing, because I need to be on the lookout for bias. Another great example is there was a tool for skin cancer screening, okay? And it was phenomenal. And what had happened was they just fed pictures of people with cancer into a large language model. And the machine learned, oh, that's cancer, that's not cancer, that's cancer, that's not cancer. And it did that millions and millions of times. And what's the problem? I don't know if anybody's heard this, but can anybody suspect what the problem is with this skin cancer screening tool is? It gets it completely wrong with people of color. That's because the images used to train the model were disproportionately skewed. Yep, Nicole got it, skin color. That's because the images used to train the model were disproportionately white. So it works. The model was great. We were using AI in a really effective way. It's a beautiful use case. And but it had the training set, the training data was skewed. So some people are having some connectivity issues. I'm not seeing that for everybody. Let us know if it's system wide, and we'll try to do something to help with it. Anyway, that skin cancer screening tool is another example of bias entering the process. Okay, let's go to generative AI and large language models. How many of you saw the scuttlebutt on these images that came out of a Google AI engine? I think it was Google. I think it was this. So why did this happen? Again, another chat question. Why were these images generated like this? Who's got an idea what happened? Well, in with some of these Gen AI tools, so generative AI is different than classical AI because, and we'll show you an example here in a second. It takes lots of expressions, human ideas, thoughts, and it trains itself. Okay, and so it began to learn that founding fathers had powdered wigs. They had coats with the blue collars that had and the buttons and the way they're dressed and the bows. All of that was learned. The machine learning through looking at images and descriptions and everything knew, generally speaking, but the model had been trained. Like if I wanted to generate an image for like a workplace, and I said, hey, draw me an AI generated image of a workplace, the model had been said, hey, try to display a diverse population. Okay, so try to display a diverse population because that's representative of the population as a whole. And so that instruction, that sentiment was contained in this when the generative AI tool went to give us this image of the founding fathers. It was using that instruction in its head, virtual head, to create that, and so it gave us diverse skin color. It gave us diverse ethnicities. There was also a point here too about Nicole makes a point about prompts. Prompts, the way you prompt these engines, I suspect in the next couple of years, those of you in the HR teams are going to be starting to hire for prompt engineers in a huge way. If you're going into college now, you need to think about how you can become a prompt engineer. These are people that will learn how to query AI tools and use prompts effectively. Now, this could have been avoided because this was somebody just playing around with AI. If once the image had been generated, they said, yes, but remember that back in the time, the founding fathers were white. And then it's like, okay, with that additional prompt, that additional information and context given to the generative AI engine, it could have fixed the image to bring it in line with what we would normally expect. So prompt engineers, people who have the ability to set the context for AI and to make queries effective, that's going to be a growing need over the coming years. One thing, if you are using like ChatGPT, just a trick of the trade is set the context before you ask it your final question. Say, hey, I want you to respond as if you're an 8th grader living in Tennessee, and you have and you live in a single parent family. You can kind of give it that context so that when whatever the next query is, the next prompt you're asking, it will come at it with that framework. So those are ways to improve the information you're getting back out of these large language models.
Yeah. I think that the prompting is the skill set that we're all going to need to be successful here, to understand how to clarify what we're looking for, and as the models improve and as our interactions with them improve, we'll understand that, what are we optimizing with the prompt that we're giving the model.
So how do these work? This is very simplified explanation, and I know those of you who are very detailed, you'll roll your eyes. And this is me. This is like me explaining how gravity works by the image of a bowling ball and a blanket. Okay, I know it's dumbed down, but essentially what happens is, we have all of these human expressions over the last 60, 70 years. And what happens is they go through transformers, and the machine learns, so knows that wants is a verb. It starts to identify wants, and cash is a verb, and check is a noun. Now, sometimes cash is a noun. Hey, give me some cash so I can go buy some pizza. And sometimes it's a verb. And by going through literally trillions of expressions, the 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 model can begin to distinguish when we're talking about cash as a verb or cash as a noun. And then as you keep doing this, so in essence, what AI is doing is it knows what should be the next word in an expression based on probabilities in some ways. Okay, based on based on all this human uh, creation that we have loaded into these large language models, we can kind of guess using probabilities as to what would be the makeup of the sentence. What should the sentence look like? What is the next word? So, it's interesting that and this is typical, this happens in all industrial revolutions, but as those that are in positions of power, those that are their current winners, they want to protect their turf. Okay. And so AI comes out and people are saying, hey, I wrote a book and you went in and you used my book to train your large language model. So that's a copyright violation. You're copying my stuff. But what's really interesting about the nuance is they're like, no, we're not copying it because I don't care your storyline. I don't care about your character. I just want to know the pattern of how your words are put together. I
Yeah.
just want to know how many times the follows or precedes the word car. Okay. So and they're saying, is that copying? I don't know if we're copying. I'm not certainly copying it to use it in the form of how you created it. You created a story, you created an idea. I'm not copying your idea. I'm just looking at the sequence of your language.
Right. Right. But it becomes unbelievably powerful. It sounds simple if it's probability, what's the next word, and it's got such a depth of understanding depending on the model you're using, that it's surprisingly powerful in the type of output it returns with. Now, it doesn't replace. I mean, it can be fallible, as we've talked about. It can get things wrong, but it's getting better all the time, and we're getting better at understanding and writing prompts to use that effectively. Just interesting examples around. In our world, if I said, coming out of this, what are 5 ways to help build growth on my or growth and to strengthen growth and development on my team, it'll come back with things that I, as an organizational development consultant, would say, yeah, that's great, that's tremendous, I've been telling clients this, or that's tremendous, and I hadn't thought of that fourth one. It does an amazing job, even though it's aggregating and using probabilities. The output is really remarkable.
Yeah. Now, so should you be using AI to create content? Hopefully your marketing teams are. It's a very good way to get people started. It's a great way to get first drafts. Now, you have to be careful. Now, let me jump ahead a little and preview a case that I was going to talk about where an junior HR associate had been tasked with sorting through hundreds of resumes. Got the idea that she could upload these resumes to ChatGPT. That was the one model I think she used, and then ask it to help begin to do the process of deciding who's in and out, right? To sort of start analyzing all of this information. The challenge is inadvertently that associate, that HR junior associate, has just uploaded a bunch of resumes, of which some of those people may not have wanted that resume to be in an open model, right? So this is where privacy and the use of AI, and this is where the European Union, they just passed their policy. It's going to take years for it to come into effect. But this is what they're concerned of, is how do we tell people and they can know where their information is going to go. And in this case, if I submit a resume to a firm because I see an open job position, am I giving it permission to upload that into an open model? I don't think so. And I may not want something on that resume. I may have tailored that resume with something really unique, maybe a confidential, something about a security clearance, for example. And now that's out there. That's now been put into an open domain. Another example, while we're at it, is Samsung. Last year, there were some engineers who were trying to get a product ready for the Consumer Electronics Show that happens in Las Vegas right around the 1st of January. Okay, so this is just a little bit over a year ago. And they were stuck, and so they uploaded source code and QA files and everything sort of related to this project in order for their model to help them make some queries, design some to build some software instructions. And it's been ruled that because they did that, the protection, the intellectual property protection that Samsung wanted for that product isn't there anymore. It's open. They don't have the privacy that they thought. They don't have the intellectual property protection that Samsung wanted for that particular feature or that particular software product because they had uploaded that into an open Gen AI model. So these are examples where you need to have your policies in check. You need to be training people because you should not be inadvertently putting information out there that considered a breach.
It goes to the kind of one of my favorite things I've been reading about around this and other technologies is new technology uncovers new responsibilities, and AI is evolving and coming online so fast and furious, and we're learning new amazing things that it's going to take time for us to really understand the responsibilities and the risk as in our role in HR and our role in leaders in the organization, that type of thing. And they're evolving very quickly, and it's going to take a lot of work to kind of find what new normal looks like.
All right. So I gotta go fast. Is AI all bad? No. Here's an example of it being used to go through a very large legal contract and find issues and suggest language in a way much better than a human lawyer could do. So you're going to start writing your offer letters, and your employment contracts are going to start coming from AI, generative AI models. And it's going to be better because they don't miss things. They're not tired. They're not interrupted by a phone call, whatever the case may be. There are some really great use cases. And this is a classic one where, you've got a 120-page limited partnership agreement, and you can go through it. We had a situation where we just deployed an AI tool yesterday to look at our database, and it came back with some recommendations that really improved our overall performance, our load speed on certain pages in some of the way we load surveys into browsers. And that's because it had all of this really great information, and it's a computer, so it will check every part of the database, every setting, every nook and cranny, and it does it really well. And it was a huge home run for us, and we were happy with it, really happy with that solution. So again, there are already really great applications of AI, but there's going to be some challenges.
Yeah.
And then just keep watching the chat because there's some great solutions out here. Like Alan just talked about, Harvard iLab came out with an IA legal space. Like there are some really interesting tools to help all of you. And we're going to sort through, and as we work on AI together, into the future, I think we're going to coalesce around some really great ideas. Okay, how are you using AI in your functions? I was going to stop and ask folks to throw into the chat where are you using it now, but let me just throw out that if you've got analytics tools, you're using probably a lot of classical AI still, but talent management systems, Where right now where AI is really the main intersection of HR and AI is in recruiting. It's in sorting and managing uh, the hiring process. And let me share a story with you. I'm familiar. I was talking to a consultant who uh, does a lot of work in AI, and she was sharing an experience. And some of you may have heard the story, but because she shared this story at a conference I attended. But they had figured out a way to use AI to basically sort through all these resumes and make a hiring decision. And she asked the question, but what human is actually going to make the final decision? What human is responsible for reviewing this whole process flow that you've created? And it turned out there wasn't a human. And she's like, that's not responsible AI. You need to be using we need to preserve human decision making, and a human needs to be involved. Otherwise, you're introducing the possibility of bias, in unintentional bias, or whatever it may be. But you can't in this hiring, in this effort to make hiring easy and faster, we can't take out humans from the process.
Right.
Um,
I was just
Go
going to
ahead.
add, Matt, one of our design principles around our listening technologies is around let's let computers do what they do well and let people do what they do, and going down the path of, automating certain tasks and those type of things. I think that's still very much true in the AI world, that it's a very powerful amplifier, but we want human beings to be writing really the correct prompts and also interpreting the results, and we're not taking the place of human decision making.
Okay. So possibilities for AI in the employee experience space. This is the space that we're in at DecisionWise. Well, no doubt it can examine vast amounts of data exhaust. Data exhaust is all that stuff that comes out that's not structured. It's it's all of the calendar invites on people's in people's Outlook. It's all of the questions that were asked in a chat bot. Like there's so much data exhaust that running these things through closed large language models can be a great way to sort it. Now, I caution you, and this is where I don't think that just spying on our employees by kind of doing reconnaissance on their data exhaust is should be the only way you're going to decide if that employee is engaged or if that employee is satisfied or whatever the sentiment is, right? We still need to ask human beings questions. We still need to ask them how they feel. We can't just sort of extrapolate from everything they're doing using AI. Now we'll get better at it, and so it's a part of the equation, but it should never replace direct questions where people have the opportunity to respond directly as a human. Now, analysis can be improved because we can use text analytics, and natural language processing is getting much better to help us understand sentiment. Um, it's great. You can use AI to anonymize data so that you can avoid legal risks, but then analyze the data to see trends. So it's going to empower and make people analytics even more effective than it is now. I think it's going to really jumpstart people analytics and take it to the next level. Where I really like it is in personalization. I'm a big believer right now that if I were spending dollars, and we're going to do 3 case studies here in a second, I would spend my dollars in using AI to personalize the experience for people. I think it's really good at that. We have a lot of history of that. The example of Netflix is a good example where we have classical AI and now they're using Gen AI to even augment those capabilities. I love AI generated insights where we're not telling people what to do, but we're giving them a menu. We're making the human smarter in the decision making process. Have you thought of these 3 things? As prescriptive recommendations. Right now our prescriptive recommendations is we have a database, and then algorithmically we sort of serve up a few suggestions on what people might think about or read or consider. It can get a lot better. And personalizing that for the human is where we're making the process better. Um, and then continuous feedback loops and more effective use of chatbots. This will be a really great way to do that always on listening. I don't know if they're there yet. I don't know if I'd be spending dollars and resources there, but I do think in the personalization field and in those areas, I mean, that's where I think we can make some headway. So let's jump into 3 case studies to try to illustrate what I'm talking about. So Company X implemented an AI-powered survey platform that dynamically adjusts survey questions based on employee responses. So it becomes a conversation, and ideally the questions are tailored to maybe that person. So that sounds cool, right? Well, it's a lot of effort, and I'm not sure I still see the full benefit yet. I kind of like the fact that a well-phrased question given to everybody and looking at how people respond across demographics, across departments, and across how long they've been with the company, and all of those different ways that we slice data. I'm not sure that the gee whiz factor of having personalized questions is worth the investment yet. It will. I'm not saying it won't be. I'm just not sure if it's there yet. So if I have limited resources and I can only get the attention of my executive teams, I don't know that I'm saying, hey, let's have the most user-friendly survey experience because it's just going to be super intuitive and it's only going to talk to you about what you want to talk about. I don't think we have that figured out yet. So in my sense, this is not where I would invest dollars in using AI. It's cool. It's personalizing the questions, but we're losing that consistency and we're losing the ability to have structured data across all the demographic variables that we have. The next case study, here's an old picture of a old stock ticker, right, where you could get real-time stock quotes back in the day. So company Y integrated AI algorithms to analyze employee feedback in real time and predict future trends in employee sentiment. It sounds amazing, right? Oh man, we can know right away. But why is speed so important? What is the true HR turnover rate? If I get some feedback about exit surveys, if I pull some data from our exit surveys, am I really operationally that much better if I have it in real time as of what people were saying today? Or if I got that in a week, would that be acceptable? Now, I know there are some use cases where things are happening and having real-time information is valuable, but we don't want to let the tail wag the dog. And so the point is you have to think through, is it worth, if I'm going to spend my time doing some spending to doing some AI implementations, and I'm going to spend resources, and I'm going to advocate to decision makers where we should spend HR budget on AI tools, I have to ask myself, is the benefit of speed something that I need from AI right now? I'm going to suggest that the HR turnover rate is about every month. Like as long as data is current within a month, it's usually good enough for most decision-making processes.
Yeah,
Go ahead, jump in.
I was just going to say, I think we have yet to see the AI value being on the data collection side. It's really, there's some tools on that, as you mentioned, insights on the action planning, some interpretation, certainly of text, but capturing that data, I agree with it. The ROI isn't there yet.
Yeah. So case study 3, this is the one where I am positive on. And so companies adopted AI-driven action planning tools to generate customized recommendations. Now, again, I don't want those to be, you got to go do this. This is not goal setting for the employee. We don't want AI-generated goal setting. Can you imagine how you would feel? But if you're making smart recommendations that are powered by your company, you're using some data that you have internally based on your best liked training modules that have been viewed. If you're using kind of all of this data to teach an AI tool and it's now giving, excuse me, giving better recommendations, now we've made the human smarter. Now we've taken the data, not in the collection side, but in the output side, and we've made them smarter.
You know, it's interesting. This is where I think the biggest opportunity. My big hope for HR with AI, at least in the very near term or today, is that it's an amplifier. I've never met an HR team that's said, well, and maybe I have, but I can't remember a case where I said, oh, we're overstaffed in HR. Almost every HR team is stretched very, very thin. And unfortunately, a lot of times they're mired in tactical HR. They're writing job descriptions, or they're in the midst of creating these things that AI can pick up and not do itself, but can really speed up the process. And so my great hope is that we're going to see more of our friends and practitioners in HR able to focus on strategic HR and be able to get through some of the tactical things much more effectively, efficiently, and be able to build more of, add to their strategic impact in the organization, focus on leadership development, succession, focus on culture building, aligning to the strategy, those type of great things, and not as much on some of the things that the computer could very easily help out with.
We had someone come to us and ask if we could do AI generated feedback in a 360. And I said, we probably could. But if I were spending my AI dollars, I wouldn't have it there. Again, I'd have it with this metaphor of a co-pilot. This AI can kind of run parallel with the human and augment the human's information and decision-making process. That's where I would spend my dollars. I'm okay taking in somebody's poorly framed thought right now and into feedback. I'm okay bringing that in and dealing with it because I want to focus on this side first. We'll get there, I'm sure, but it's kind of trade-offs right now. Key focus areas then, my recommendation and our recommendation is look at personalization tools that make the experience, personalize the experience, and then anything that improves human decision-making by making the human informed. That would be the rubric I would use to evaluate what AI products I would recommend and what type of where I would spend my dollars. So the question is what are some of our of the HR tech companies out there like Lattice and Glint doing for these cases? I think they're getting better. I think that Glint's probably ahead of the game in serving up really great learning ideas and prescriptive recommendations for managers. It hasn't changed the data collection side, but they probably have a bit of a head start against some, even against DecisionWise in some ways, but we're catching up. We're all using pretty effective. We're all using pretty effective tools and models available. So anyway, but this is where I would focus.
Yeah.
Okay, some quick legal and ethical. So let me just read this statement. AI algorithms trained on historical data may inadvertently perpetuate biases present in the data, leading to discriminatory outcomes in recruitment, performance evaluation, and promotion decisions. HR departments must proactively assess and mitigate biases in AI systems through rigorous testing, diverse training data sets, and ongoing monitoring. Okay, so here's the joke. That whole statement was generated by AI. That quote right there was me asking it if I had to tell HR teams what they need to be worried about in AI. That's what it came back with, and it's right. It's right. That is what if I am in HR right now, this is my number one concern. It's about responsible use of AI and figuring out how to implement it appropriately and partnering with teams and making policies, and then choosing the right tools as I have budget for it. But that's kind of the irony is that was generated through AI. All right, some basic issue checklist: bias. What training sets are being used? Who built the application? Testing to see if the systems are biased. Data privacy and security. We need to get really transparent with how we're going to use our employees' data, how it's going to be processed in AI engines. I know that's what the EU is going to make us do. We can know for sure because we've seen the policy, but also how GDPR is coming into effect is we're going to have to secure people's data, and we're going to have to tell people how AI is impacting their information. That means, are we using responsible AI with appropriate committees? Do we have policies? Do we have ethics? Do we have oversight? I hope to deputize all of you to be champions of this and start urging your organizations to do the things they need to now. Right now, there's no regulator, and so the temptation is to do whatever you can, gain a competitive advantage. But in reality, the regulation is going to come. It's going to come in less than a year or 2 years. And if you can start moving towards good practices now, you're just that much farther ahead. And because I don't know that there's a lot to be gained by just sort of having maximum freedom now and then complying in 2 years. I think, in my view, start complying now and because you're going to have to comply anyway. Other legal issues, dangers of open models. We mentioned the Samsung case, the loss of sensitive data and breaches putting resumes into ChatGPT. As an HR leader, are you conducting AI policy audits? Have you looked at your policies and conducted audits of them to see if they're up to speed? And then again, the beauty is AI can be the answer to help uncover breaches and to anonymize data and to actually help you do some of this. There will be AI tools that are going to help you implement the EU recommendations or the EU guidelines that will be required. So AI is not bad. It's part of the solution. It's just being smart. Provenance is something I want to spend a little bit of time on, and that is preserving records and designating information that should never change. Original sources. And so let's get into provenance. Provenance comes from it's a word is typically associated with chain of title in art. The painting, sourcing that painting back from the original artist. Where was it exhibited? Who had it? How did the auction house obtain it? And it's to avoid forgeries and copies and things getting out there. And so provenance is a big issue. And so provenance is, where is the data from? Who's made a change? It's like it's making sure the data is what it purports to be. Now, data lineage is what's happened to the data, tracing changes, understanding why data might be missing, how's it been updated. Those are two concepts we're starting to deal with: data lineage and data provenance. But as HR, I would want to know that when we put a policy in place, that we can stamp it. This is just an aside. I think this is where blockchain is going to have a really interesting possibility as we're able to use distributed ledgers to record things and certify that some things are the original source documents or source ideas. But this is data provenance. But now, again, my main point, and the number one thing we need to do, preserve human decision-making. In our eagerness to adopt a new technology that can do so many amazing things, let's not outsource decision-making to AI. We just don't understand it well enough or have the use cases that are needed. So right now, for example, I referenced there's an executive order that President Biden signed here in the United States, mobilizing more resources on AI. It's the largest mobilization of government resources since we've been at war. Like World War II type of war. And so we're trying to figure it out. And some regulators, like the Federal Trade Commission, they're saying, look, if you create something with AI, you own it. There's not going to be, well, I didn't realize the AI tool is creating a bias. And I think that's how the EEOC the Equal Employment Opportunity Commission will view this. If your tool creates bias, it doesn't matter that it was AI. It doesn't matter any of that. You're responsible. So right now, humans are going to own the impact of AI. They're going to own it. And so that's why we have to preserve human decision-making and make sure, and I think that's the foundation of good, responsible AI, is preserving human decision-making. Now, we can augment it and use it to make better decisions, but we don't want to eliminate the human. I'm going to wrap up here real quick. So AI and hiring is the core intersection right now in the HR world. I think virtual assistants and AI-powered resource centers, knowledge labs, help desk. I started my career at Deloitte. We had knowledge labs where we had a ton of firm-created information or knowledge bases that we could go and look through, and AI is going to make those way more useful, way more current, way more up to date. So those are exciting ways to get. If you're a services organization or something like that, these are exciting areas. I think it's going to be key in helping to manage learning and development initiatives. I really do, and personalizing the experience and serving up recommendations that matter to people. How will it impact their perceptions, attitudes, beliefs? If you have a lot of AI in your organization, what will that make? How will people feel about that? So you're going to have to start thinking about that in your own employee engagement surveys, and as you survey and pulse and listen to your populations, you're going to want to understand how people feel. Are they nervous? Are they afraid? How have we taught them enough? Have we shown them how we're doing things? Will HR wait to be told what to do, or will it have an active voice in shaping policy and strategy? I hope and challenge you all to find a way to try to be active and to shape strategy in this world. The key will be specialized LLMs. These are large language models that we make even smarter by giving them specialized training data sets. And then never use an open model with sensitive data. Start using responsible AI with committees and policies and oversight. You're going to create better employment contracts and offer letters, so that's coming. And then again, protect human decision making. So that was a lot, but hopefully it gave you a framework and a way to start thinking about how to spend your time and your dollars as you think about the cost benefit of AI. Does it really make it better? And I think we've tried to give you a framework along those lines. So any thoughts, Christian?
No, just as you and I are both excited about the possibilities, as well as, wary of a few areas of risk. But the other thing, protect human decision making. I'd also add, as we think through the lens of employee experience, protect humanity. We don't want to outsource the moments where some humanity is needed. We working with employees, they're very personal needs. There are moments of personal tragedy and things that really require a human to human interaction. And it's a sad world if it becomes a cold world. And so even though the LLMs and things can mimic emotion in writing and things like that, just keep that in mind in terms of where are we using it effectively, and also how do we keep our humanity in the workplace and make sure that employees feel valued and connected and cared for.
Yeah, advocate for your employees. Make sure organizations are taking the time to be transparent. Make sure that we do this right. People are going to be naturally hesitant, skeptical, afraid even, and your job can step in to help bridge the gap and talk about, again, responsible AI. How do we use it in a responsible manner? Any questions coming in from the chat? There was just a comment about preventing bad actors. Yeah, we're going to have to use AI to prevent bad actors. And so is it going to be like, as is the case with steroids in sports, are the designer steroids always ahead of the testing? I don't know if or what it will be like.
Right. But also, there was the question earlier about how do you police it? And I think it's the same type of thing we police around social media. When it came online, we didn't know how it could backfire on an organization. And so we train, we have policies, and we try to build a culture of awareness and guidance. But yeah, bad actors in any area of our business are a concern.
Okay. Well, we're at time, so we're going to let you guys go. Appreciate everyone today, and stay tuned for our next webinar in our series next month. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.